Hi, I'm Dave Bryant, and as you may know from other videos, for our Third Thursdays concert series, every time we have one of our guests in that's was a former Ornette Coleman sideman, we like to do a little oral history chat with them. And we've got a good friend and a great musician today, Mr. James Kamal Jones. As somebody may have heard me mention before, I used to go to New York and listen to the first primetime rehearse before I actually joined the band in 1990. And I saw some rehearsals with Calvin Weston, but most of the ones I saw were with my friend James here on the drums, at that time under the name Kamal Sabir. But lost touch for a while, and then one day somebody told me, the sound man at Ryle's Jazz Club says he thinks he knows you. So that turned out to be James here, who has, among his other many talents, is a great sound engineer. So, welcome, James. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Good to see you. So, I guess let's start the way I've started with everybody else, which is, how did you hook up with Ornette? When did you come in contact with him the first time?
Yeah, I was playing with this band called The Untouchables, and Arturo Alfaro was the piano player.
Yeah, yeah.
Pablo Calangero was the sax player, and I can't remember the bass player's name, but Roy Campbell Jr. used to come and play with us when they needed a trumpet player. So
right.
we had a band. It was basically a quartet, but they would source out to Roy Campbell Jr. So I think, I can't remember, it was after a gig or a rehearsal, he said to me, oh, this saxophone player by the name of Ornette Coleman is looking for a drummer. He's auditioning drummers. You should go down.
So Roy said that.
Right. I didn't know who he was. I never heard of him before. I had no idea. So I said, okay, yeah, so give me the address, time. I went down, that's when they was down in that big building down by the Williamsburg Bridge down there, right. Delancey Street. Just had the school down there. Right. So I went to the audition.
On Rivington?
In Rivington, yeah, that big school building, yeah.
Right, right.
And so I went down, and I walked in, and they was all set up on stage, and I think they might have been taking a break or something right then.
And like, what year was this?
This was, oh man, must have been 83, maybe 82, 83.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I walked in, and I introduced myself, said, told him that Roy Campbell told me he was auditioning. So, I just went up on stage and said, come on up. And so Ornette just said to me, play. So I just started playing. I was moving backward a little bit. I had been groomed already to just play like free and just be able to create. It was the gentleman who really influenced me. His name was Artie Simmons, William Simmons, trombone player. He had a group called the Jazz Samaritans. A lot of musicians came to his band, Sidney Black, a lot of people. Billy Carver, a lot of people came to his band. He was playing with Sun Ra at the time. Oh. So we would get together, we would just play. He would just say, just play, and he would point his trombone in the air and just start blowing, yeah. And we would just play like for hours, J.T. Lewis used to go up to his place and play. A lot of drummers would go up there and just play for hours. So he was one of the first. I met him at Jazzmobile in New York City. And how I got to go to Jazzmobile, I grew up in the Bronx, and I was playing with a band at a very early age. We was playing, and I went to this club up in the Bronx. It's called the Pepper and Salt, where all the jazz musicians, jam session night would go. All of the cats, Jack McDuff, all of them would come sit in. Lonnie Smith, all of them cats, the great jazz cats. So I went up there. I was just a funk drummer. I was like 18. Something like that. I went up there, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna go sit in and play some music, So about maybe under a minute into the set, they stopped the music, and I got kicked off the stage, It's like, what are you doing, man, because I couldn't swing. So I said, okay, that's fine. I'm gonna learn how to swing. I'm gonna learn how to swing, and that's what I did. That's when I went to Jazzmobile, and I met Artie Simmons, and it was a great experience at Jazzmobile. So forward fast, that was a prep for me to be able to just jump in there with Ornette and just stop playing, because I was already groomed to do that, through Artie. And so, we played for a little while, and like I told you before, we stopped, and he said, yeah, you have your passport? And I said, yeah. And then I was in the band. It was, yeah.
Where's the first place you went?
We played? I can't remember. We was working with this, some management company and had us, I think we might have been in San Francisco, somewhere out in the Midwest, Seattle, San Francisco, out there in that area. We played, I think we played the Great American Music Hall out there. Yeah. And we played this other club called Wolfgang's out in San Francisco, and we stayed in Chinatown. I think that was one of the, if I remember correctly, I can't remember exactly, but that was one of the some of the first gigs. We was doing these tours with that, and then, yeah. So.
Cool. All right. So you were with the band until
86.
86. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, because Calvin was back for In All Languages, but
Yeah.
you were on the opening the Caravan of Dreams album, which was also that gig was also documented in Shirley Clarke's Ornette Made in America documentary too.
That was a big production.
Yeah. So yeah, tell us about that whole thing, about that whole gig, because that was the Caravan of Dreams Club in Fort Worth, where they had Ornette down and gave him the key to the city, because he's originally from Fort Worth, and did Skies of America with John Giordano and the Fort Worth Symphony, and some other things. So yeah, tell us how that came together.
We just, we heard we was going to do this, movie. Actually, we opened up the Caravan of Dreams. We opened up the club on this band. It was a big to-do, man. It was a big fanfare and the whole nine, a lot of interviews, and they did, it was an amazing experience playing with the orchestra. Yeah. Because we would play prime time, and then, the orchestra would play, and then we would come in with prime time, and they would play together. That was kind of really exciting. Yeah. And I didn't know much about the conductor, but he was this big, huge conducting dude, and it was good. A lot of buzz around it. They gave him the key. I think we was there for about maybe 2 weeks or a week. I can't remember exactly, but it was a big production. It was a great thing.
Yeah, I remember when we did the prime time I was in, when we do Skies of America, and the conductor would say to the orchestra, "All right, gentlemen from the tutti," and Ornette would look at us and go, "Tutti frutti, fellas."
I know they had this big dome up there. I forgot the guy who made this dome.
Yeah, like the Buckminster Fuller.
Yeah, the Buckminster Fuller. Yeah, this big dome on top of it. It was kind of interesting going up there. But they was doing a lot of different things. I think they did smaller orchestras before we did the big thing. But
So, anything you remember from the movie part of it?
No. It's just a lot of stuff going on, a lot of cameras around, people around, moving around, shooting and doing different things. I was pretty much, trying to stay out of the cameras, I was a little camera shy. I was trying to stay away,
Right. But it wasn't anything like if she asked you guys to make certain adjustments or allowances for her.
No,
she was just on the side.
Yeah, it was kind of an impromptu thing, just letting it happen, capturing what was just going on naturally type of thing, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, no, very good. I know there's a great back and forth with Jamal and Charlie Ellerby at the beginning of that backstage. There's a lot of fun stuff in that movie, so I recommend everybody check out that film, Ornette Made in America by Shirley Clarke, if you haven't seen it.
It was a great experience.
Yeah. I know we've talked a couple of times about certain directions that Ornette would give you that would be a little obscure in how you interpreted them. And so I was wondering if you had any of those.
Oh yeah, he would say, one of the things that really was kind of frustrating for me when I got in his band, everything I knew about how to approach the drum set, I couldn't use it in his band. I just had to strip myself bare of all of that and then relearn how to play drums again in his band. It was, because what he was talking about was just so different from how I approached it. He would say things like, let your rhythm create its own time, which it would.
Yeah.
And he would say things like, play circular instead of vertical. I'm like, okay, like this. I would just try to interpret what he was asking me to do.
So when you say let your rhythm create its own time, so that's like that way you'd have a certain beat and there'd be a certain tempo that it would seem to lock in at. Is that
exactly?
Kind of thing?
Yeah. And I've used that a lot now. I mean, I love it because it does. You can just play. He would say stuff like, don't play mathematical time. Don't play 4/4 mathematical, play pulse, like a pulse. So it's kind of like 4, but it's really not 4. It's kind of like we was talking about, there's no bars.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Pulse,
that kind
but
of
no
thing.
bar line.
So I was pretty much, he would just give me sheet music that had melodies on it, and I would just try to interpret it the best I could.
Right, because his phrasing, you know, he'd always like, one was wherever he started playing.
Right.
Yeah, so it wasn't like, all right, well, one's coming up here. I know right when it's going to be. It's like, no, you just keep it open, and he'll let you know where one is. Right?
And it always changed. It was never the same. You know, like it was. Sometimes we'd be like, it would be really great. You know, we would, yeah, that's really good. And then the next day you come to rehearsal, that's not good anymore. So I was like, okay, so you know, I got to, you know, break me down again so I can start up again.
Yeah, I remember when somebody come in, one of the guitar players one time come in and saying, Ornette saying, those aren't the right notes. And he said, well, you said they were the right notes yesterday. He said, well, they're not today.
Yeah, I know. That was the first thing. He used to be on Burns too. Burns would break down sometimes, you know, but he would just start weeping because, you know, it was just so much pressure, you know, just trying to get this stuff right. Ornette was hearing on a daily basis. Yeah. And like, you know, like you well know, the rehearsals were very long. I pretty much lived down there. Yeah. You know, I lived down there, for, you know, we would, about 2 weeks from the gig, we would be down there like, you know, 10, 12-hour days. Even when everybody left and you were still staying there, Ornette would come, you know, ask you things about the music. Right. You know, in my mind, I was like, I'm ready to go to sleep now, but.
With you guys, didn't he like hire a cook at one point? And have some... Yeah. Some guy was making sandwiches or something. Yep.
He had these weird speakers. It looked like, you remember those speakers?
Yeah, the round white ones.
Yeah, it looked like satellites or something like that.
They used to have them in the Harvard Square T station, hanging from the ceiling.
Okay. Yeah. Those were kind of weird. We used those in rehearsals. They're pretty good speakers.
Yeah, so I don't know if the guy that developed those was at MIT or what, but because I know I saw them a couple of places around Boston.
Yeah, they sound really good. They sound really good. It was you know, yeah.
But I remember he had those set up in Rivington Street in the rehearsal space.
Yep. It was funny because it was a drummer there auditioning before me, and you know, I got the gig, you know, but he was a great drummer, you know, funk drummer, because we grew up in the same neighborhood, and you know, we was just straight up funk drummers until I got introduced. You know, there was a guy in our neighborhood. He wore the dashiki and the kufi, you know. He was a cool cat, you know, you look at, so we would go to his house and I got turned on to Elvin Jones and, you know, Train and all those people, and I never heard it before. And then before that, I heard a friend of mine, a drummer friend of mine, turned me on to Billy Cobham, you know, and before all of that, I was just playing straight up funk, 4/4 funk, but when I heard Billy Cobham, I said, that's a machine, you know. And then those different time signatures was kind of like foreign to me, you know, those different kind of, you know, time signatures. And then I heard Elvin Jones. So, you know, I was beginning to really start understanding, to come out of the funk mode into just a more improvisation or more kind of a melodic type of playing. And then when I was with Artie Simmons, we were street musicians, you know. We would play Columbus Circle, we would play Wall Street, you know, and I paid my rent playing on the street for a while, you know. And Sidney Blackman was out there playing with George Brake, you know, she was out there playing. They should play at the library at 42nd Street and Avenue of the Americas. Yeah. All the time I should see her, because I was living for a while on 48th Street, right in Rockefeller Center, right there.
She was my next door neighbor at the Berkeley dorms. We used to play all the time.
Yeah.
I should mention that back then your credits were under the name Kamal Sabir.
Yep.
So if you're looking for James Kamal Jones on those records, that's the name you'd look for at that time.
It was funny because, you know, just a little bit of history, brief. I was, you know, my family is very dysfunctional, you know. I was, you know, so in certain ways I wanted to divorce myself from my family because I didn't want to have anything to do with it. So I said if I changed my name, maybe that'd happen. I was trying to find some kind of some kind of affection. So I was on the road, I was with the Delphonics. I was 16 years old on the road traveling with Delphonics, and they had a book of Arabic names. And, you know, I was homeless at the time, you know, so it was good. I was, you know, I had a place to stay while I was playing with them. And so I was reading this book, and I came across the name Kamal, and it meant perfection. And I said, yeah, that's what I need, a little bit perfection in my life. Maybe I just change my name and call myself Kamal, and maybe I'll get some perfection in my life. And then Sabir meant hope and purpose. Yeah. And those are the kind of things I was looking for, I was hungry for. And so I was kind of like under this kind of maybe Buddhist philosophy. It was all kind of stuff mixed up in there. If you call yourself a certain thing, it manifests itself type of thing, you know.
Aspirational.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and that's why I changed it. But I used to drive Donato crazy because on the road sometimes I want to change it back, you know. To change, and he would say, "Make up your mind," you know. I used to drive him crazy, you know, with that, because I was going back and forth, vacillating back and forth, until until around 1994. I said, I'm gonna come back to the name I was given on my birth certificate. I'm just gonna call myself that. That's who I was. That's who I am. So I came full circle. So I decided to start using, my birth name, and but I kept Kamal in there because nobody knew me as James. Nobody, so yeah, that's how that came about.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
So at some point, get off the Ornette thing just a little bit. Mm-hmm. You went back to UMass Dartmouth, right? Is that right?
Amherst.
Amherst, that's right.
Yeah, mm-hmm.
Amherst. So yeah, tell us about that, because I know you worked with Yusef Lateef there.
Yes. I should see him around town. I've been listening to Yusef when I was a teenager. When I think he was at CTI Records. Okay. Yeah, and I was listening to him then. I used to do, when I was living on 48th Street, I was doing Messenger Works. I would go into those CTI Records and I would see the posters of him, Hank Crawford, and Yusef and Idris Muhammad, other people like that, if I remember correctly. But anyway, we was doing an artist in residence in my ex-wife at the Butterfield building. And I would run into Yusef. I'll see him at the post office. One time I said, I'm going to just approach him, So I saw him and I said, how you doing, Yusef? My name is Kamal. So he said, I know who you are. And I said, yeah, I would love, I've been listening to you since I was a teenager, man. I would love to get together and play. And he said, I don't jam, And I said, oh, that's cool. Well, here's my card. If you ever need a drummer, it would be an honor to play with you. I would really love that. So I'll say fast forward, about 6 months later, I get a call, and it's Yusef. And he goes, do you have a place to play, And I was like, oh, so excited. And my mind was going, I was going to say, I don't jam, but I wouldn't say that, right? I would never say that. Yeah, I know. So
it's tempting, right?
Yeah. So we got together and we had like a little room down in the basement. We got together and played, almost similar with Ornette. We got just sax and drums. We got together and played for like 20 minutes. And he said, yeah, I want you to do a record. And I was like, really? I was like so excited. And so yeah, this was 1990. I did a record with him. I think Norman Blaine, he had a studio up there, and in Shutesbury, I think. Anyway, we did the record, and he called me since then. Every time he used a drummer, I worked with him up into 2007. The last thing I did with him was the Detroit Jazz Festival. Okay. And there was me, Avery Sharp, Alex on a piano. And yeah, it was a great experience playing with him because he was similar to Ornette, but different. I forgot what he called this music, but he didn't like the word jazz because he thought that was a little demeaning, But yeah, he was really kind man. He allowed you to play. He would say things to me like, this is how you think outside the box. Like, make your cymbals sound like butterflies. And I'm like, what? So I just try to imagine what he was telling me. So I would take my cymbals, flop them up like that, like butterfly wings, and then take the brushes and it made the sound. He was like, yeah, that's good. He would play. So he was that kind of guy. He just likes to create. He never played any of his music twice. He always played different music for all the shows we did. And I did albums with Vaughn Freeman with him, Ricky Ford, Renee McLean, and we did this movie score for this Ohio Parks Department that was really interesting because we would compose to music on the screen. We would look at these videos and we compose to it and stuff. So that was kind of exciting. That was really nice. Yeah, and then, I had a lot of influences playing with those kind of cats. Leroy Jenkins, I'm on one of his albums, on Blast Sync Records, with Terry Janor and Brandon Ross. And he was another cat that was really different. His music was really different, and he allowed you to play, be yourself. Yeah. And so, yeah, I had a lot of experience with great musicians. Oliver Lake's band. Leo Wadada Smith, which was really, I got the call to do his gig in Europe, and his drummer just bailed out at the last minute. And so I didn't know anything about the music. And Wes Brown, bass player, Wes Brown called me and said, hey man, can you come to Europe? And it so happened that I wasn't doing anything. I said, sure. So I just jumped on the plane, met them in Europe, and we just hit. and you know, and I learned the music as we did the gigs. But it was really a great experience playing with him because he was really different cat too. Yeah. You know, he would always say things to me like, you know, take the handcuffs off, you know. You know.
So can you talk a little bit about, because I always talk to students who ask me when I tell them, show them some of the Ornette harmolodic stuff, they always want to know, can I use this on another gig? Can I use this on a gig that's a little straighter? Yeah. How is this going to help me with something else? Yeah. And so can you talk a little bit about how the experience of playing with Ornette informed your work with other people? Yeah, good point. It's funny because after I got kicked off the stage in the Bronx, I went to Jazzmobile school, and I just ate, slept, and drank swing music, you know, like every day. I just immersed myself with, and I played, just practice swing. So I went back to the club 2 years later, and I sat in, and then there was a guy named Al King. He was a saxophone player. They called him the Dexter Gordon of Harlem. He was great. So, and I wound up getting a gig at this place called La Famille's in Harlem. So I played almost there 2 years, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And on Sunday they have jam sessions, but cats would come through. George Benson would come through, Lonnie Smith, Jack McDuff, all of them. Anyway, fast forward, I went on the road with Ornette in the interim doing that, and then I came back and sat in the gig and tried to play like that. And no, it wasn't working. You know, because they just want ding, 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 ding. That's all they wanted. They didn't, and then improvise with your kick, you know. So I did try to, you know, experiment with when I was playing with him, but it didn't work with that band. It didn't work with a lot of other bands because the music was kind of locked in. You had to play a certain formula, and that's what Ornette should say: formulas versus just playing music. You know, there's all these different formulas to music, but there is on the other side of this just music, sort of what we do. With the harmolodic philosophy. But when you were playing with Oliver Lake or Youssef or Leroy Jenkins, then did you find that you could draw on that primetime experience then for those? No, because his music was just on a whole nother plane. But the idea of being able to play yourself and not be, you know, censored. You know, I've been in bands where the guy want to tell you what cymbal to hit, where to hit this snare, and this tom here, and I'm like, dude, you know, why don't you just get a drum machine? It won't have an opinion, it won't talk back to you, you know. And so, you know, they allow you to be yourself within the framework of their music, and I guess that was true for Ornette also. He allowed you to be yourself in the framework of what he was trying to accomplish. Yeah. But the thing about that was the goalposts kept moving from day to day. Yeah. You know, you think you got something right, then all of a sudden the next day it's totally wrong. And so that was kind of frustrating, but challenging at the same time. It was a lot of rehearsing, but it was how many different ways can we do this? Not let's get it the right way and then keep doing it over and over.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it kept evolving. Wadada Smith was similar like that. You know, his music could change. We rehearsed this music. We did a gig at the library in Brooklyn. And the Dred Scott, he wrote a Dred Scott piece, and we did that, and we rehearsed it. And then at the gig, we was getting ready to do what we rehearsed. And he was like, "No, you know, this is going to be this now, right in the gig." And I said, "Okay," and that's cool. You know, I mean, I kind of like that because it's the way I look at it is like we having a conversation now. You know, we both of a certain age, we both have a certain worldview. You know, we lived a certain amount of time, so we can conversate on things. We don't have to rehearse. We didn't rehearse it. It's similar to music. Right. You know, you come together, you have conversations musically, and you listen to the other person, and you can respond musically if you open to do that. You know, some people they can't come out of formulas. If they don't have a format, you know. So,
besides when you're playing like a gig tonight, when we're going to do some Ornette tunes and that type of thing, any other thing that's come up, another gig where you feel like you've been able to use the prime time thing on it?
Not necessarily the prime time thing, but one thing I can use on other gigs is being able to play the melody because the music is a lot of the music is so structured in a certain way, it doesn't really allow you to do anything but what that genre says you need to do, like what that formula says you need to do. You can embellish on it and do different things, but you have to be locked into that formula, and that has its place too. You know, it's a good thing. You know,
No, okay. Yeah. I was hoping you'd give me some good ammunition to take back to the students, but that's all right. That's all right.
Okay. Well, yeah.
That's all you got.
Be more specific, and then maybe I can.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's well. You know what I always tell them is things as basic as playing from the composition.
Okay.
You know, that type of thing. Or something different harmonic approaches. So there's ways to play within a certain tonality. This is note stuff, but ways to play within a certain tonality where you can use all 12 notes. You're not locked into a particular scale or mode or way of thinking that way. So rhythmically, I guess, you know, there was that sense of where that band, you know, whether it was you with the other drummers, always took some wide corners, you know what I mean? There's always you know, you think of some drummers having a very wide quarter note, you know, so there's a lot of space, so you gives you a lot of room to play either ahead of the beat or behind it or whatever. And there's a way of creating that kind of space, so there was that kind of freedom and wiggle room, so it wasn't one of those rhythm sections like you're either with it or you're against it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear you. My approach when I was, you know, I was just trying to find a space where I can fit in that nobody was in.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because you know, you had two drummers.
Right. So looking for that open lane in traffic. Right?
Exactly. You know, so I'm trying to find a space to add what I'm going to add to it, and stay out of Donato's way, and then play the melodies around some of the melodies around the drums. You know, so what it really did to me, it made me tune my drums a little different. You know, more melodic as close as I can get to, you know, a note. Yeah. You know, and so So when I play with other bands, I do incorporate that thinking with trying to play like chords on the drum set, so the two tone, you know, trying to play chords with the instrument, and then it's the cymbals, and trying to find, because there's different sounds on each part of the cymbals. There's different sounds, and even on the snare drum, you play close to the edge, there's different sounds. And I was talking to Idris Muhammad, right? Because I used to go to the studio, hang out. You know, I was young. I was 17, 18. I would go just hang out there and just talk to the musicians, you know. And he was showing me things like that, different sounds in the drum set. So all those things I picked up and added to my playing. But Ornette's band the harmolodic thing was the most challenging. You know, again, like I had to strip myself of everything I learned, everything I studied to be a drummer, from jazz up and all my studies, my personal studies. I couldn't use it. It didn't work. You know, only thing I had was my technique. You know, so I had to really learn how to approach his music, and it was frustrating. But you know, it was sometimes, you know, we got it. Like I told you that story. He was playing one time on a gig, you know, we was just playing, and Ornette was playing, he just turned around, he was like happy like a kid, turned around and he said, that's it, fellas, you know, and then you turned around and kept playing. And so we was like, okay, man, that'll work, you know, that's good, you know.
Very good, yeah, I can remember like one time just doing one of those things like, do you hear that, guys? And then you keep going and we'd be like, what just happened?
Because it was really strange how things would open up when you're playing the music. You would hear stuff that was, I don't know, like it's going into, I liken it to going into another room. You know what I mean? It's just all of a sudden this black hole would open up, and then you would, whoa, and then you just go with that. It was amazing how it would the sounds of the prime time band, you know, was just like a living cell, just moving and yeah, it was amazing when you're listening to it.
Yeah, things were, you know, it would sound like a bunch of people, and then all of a sudden it would come together and have like kind of a lightness to it, you know, where it would all come together like that.
Everybody was, you know, soloing, but they was all playing together. It was kind of, and that's what you know, one of the things I learned too, I realized that there's a difference between playing music and one of the things that happened on this band is the music starts playing you. You're no longer playing the music; it's playing you, and that's the magic when we got to that point where you're not thinking about what I'm trying to play. It's just happening, and the music is playing you. You're not really trying to play the music, and that's a space that you don't come to often.
Yeah, you know. But that's universal though. That's not. exclusive to that gig, though. So that's something we always try to go for.
Well, yeah, to me it was, you know, because you have to get to a place because just let go of all of your preconceived ideas about music, and just let the music play you. So it was, to me, that was the focal point for me, and then I use it in other, you know, genres of music. But I really experienced that for the first time because I wrestled with what I'm going to try to play, because, you know, it's so much going on, you know, where you fit. And then I got to a point where I just forget it. I'm just going to just play. And that's what I mean by letting the music play you, as opposed to trying to think, you know, it's sort of like turning your mind off for a minute, you know, turning your cognitive functions off and just going on gut type of thing. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was a good experience for me to develop that. And then by the time I came with Yusef, it was developed because he was the same way. You know, we would just give you some notes, and you know, we did a session, this Metamorphosis album. We did a session. It was just bass, drums, and sax, but then we overdubbed some things. But he just gave us the notes, and we just used to turn on the recorder, and we just hit, and it was great, man. You know, but you can see how it was. How it was developing over the first 8 bars. It was trying to find itself, and then all of a sudden, boom, it found it, and then you was with it. And it wasn't something you can necessarily articulate to someone, you know, like and that's when we played Berkeley, I had a bunch of students asking me stuff like I was supposed to give them something that they can hold on to, and you really couldn't articulate it that well, that somebody can just grasp it and use it.
Right, yeah, no, it's tough. Yeah. That's what I'm running into doing these chats with people, you know, because it's like sometimes I'm asking them to articulate things that are just very ephemeral, so it's difficult. But thanks, no, this has been, thank you for sharing your experience and your wisdom, and you know, all love and respect. Look forward to tonight.
All right, my man.
All right.
Cool. All
Thank you, folks.
Okay.
Good night.